Hello there everyone and welcome to a new review on the channel. And today we're going to be looking at a relatively new release and one that hasn't really been talked about or really marketed or anything like that. And that is the Peek in Plain Sight by Casper. Now this is something that could be interesting to some as an experience, but all in all, if I were to tell you what you're about to see in the review is something that is a bit underwhelming and not as interesting as I thought because, well, you can just do most of what you can do with this with just normal billets and be as clean, in my opinion, still. So having said that, let's learn why I feel that way right after the intro. Perfect, so decide to stick around, which means you want to learn more about the Peek in Plain Sight. So what is the Peek in Plain Sight? The Peek in Plain Sight is essentially a way that you can peek in plain sight without ever having to really put back the card into your pile or control anything. And I think the best way for me to showcase this is to show it to you. Now, of course, I don't have a spectator, so it's not as good, but I still can kind of show you how this would go. So first, you would have your ability, you would do any pattern that you want. You'd have someone focus on an object, on a person, whatever you would like. You would give them a piece of paper and then they would write on it. So for the purpose of this, I don't know, we can write something like, we'll have them think of a name and we'll put something like Sarah. Okay, so we'll write here. Normally, of course, you wouldn't be able to see this because they would have it in their hand. Your back would be turned, so you'd be kind of with your back turned like this. Then they would have that, and then tell them, have you written it? Perfect. So you tell them, look, place it in your hand flat, face down. You would take it here and you say, perfect. So now we're also going to show it to your friend. So can you see what's on there? Perfect. And also, did you sign? Can you sign the back and hold it in your hands? And just in that moment and in those movements, I have seen what is written on that piece of paper, okay? And believe me, I have seen what is there. It's not like I know what it is and I'm trying to sugarcoat it. I have seen what is on that paper and it's as clean as that. So they write it, you take it, you're like, okay, so you've done it. Look, we're gonna show it around. Can everyone see what that is? Perfect, sign your name on the back and place it in your hands and close it flat, okay? So that's essentially, or you could have them then return it to the stack while your back is turned, you place it and you have them hold it. Up to you, okay? So now that you know what is the Peek in Plain Sight, let's talk about where you buy this, how much does it cost, and what do you get. So you can buy this pretty much anywhere. It is distributed, I believe, through Murphy's. It is available at ALAKAZAM Magic, where it's where I got mine, but you can also get it at places like Vanishing Ink, Penguin Magic, and other of your favorite magic dealers if you search it up. This will set you back 32 US dollars. And there is refill options we're going to talk about in a moment. I believe those are 10 USD because in Canadian they're around $15. So it's around 10 to 12 USD for the refills. And what you get with your purchase is this. So you're going to get a stack of these cards. These cards are going to come in a really nice packaging. It's like a black kind of foil packaging or Tyvek packaging around these cards. Then you're also going to get inside, you're going to get a link to the instructional video, which is around an hour and 45 minutes, close to that ballpark. And in the instructional video, he explains to you how this works, the history, how to make it more deceptive. It's well shot, it's well explained. But I do think that there are some things, you know, in the tutorial that didn't really sit right with me, you know, and also in the marketing, all of this that, oh, if you're a lazy mentalist, and you don't have the chops, you're not gonna like this. I just don't feel that's cool marketing. You know, if you have to tell people that don't like your product that they're not a good mentalist or that they don't have the balls to do it because it's a bold method, is it really a good method? I don't know. So I wasn't really much a fan of that. And he does say it, you know, in the tutorial, he says, yeah, I've been doing this for so long. I'm, you know, super bold, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not a really big fan of that marketing, but it is what it is. You know, it's not going to lose points or anything because of that. But there is some things that you do have to keep in mind. But then you also get your cards, which are pretty good quality. They're handmade. I believe that they're handmade because they work very well. They handle well. And if you buy refills, you're going to get, I've used some of these, but you're going to get pretty much another stack of these, which I believe are around 50 or so cards, okay? So now that you know what this is, let's talk about difficulty. So how difficult is this to perform? Well, in terms of mechanics, this does, and it is fully honest in the ad copy, uses no sleight of hand, no moves, nothing like that, no switches, nothing. It is as clean as they write it, you show it, and you're done. So in terms of ease of use, it is pretty easy. However, we're going to talk about performance setting and practicality in a moment. The conditions in which where you perform this will make this sometimes a bit harder than it should be. In conditions that are under your control, so you know, such as this. So if I had just a specter sitting across to me and I'm in full control of the situation, this is super, super easy to do, okay? It's super, super easy to do. So in terms of mechanics, it is easy, but there are certain factors, X, Y, Z factors and intervening variables that will make this sometimes a bit more difficult, and he covers those in the instructional video rather well, but keep that in mind as we're going to get now into practicality. So now that we're into practicality, let's talk first about carrying capacity. So if you want to perform this, you're going to have to carry around your stack of cards. Now, yes, you can just carry this around, but keep in mind, this stack of cards is worth around 15 Canadian dollars. So if you go at a big gig and you perform this, you're probably going to run down almost all your stack. If you do this at every table, you're probably going to run this pretty quickly. And the thing with these cards is that they are non-reusable. So once you use a card like this one is gone. So I can't reuse this. This goes in the garbage. This can't even be given out as a souvenir. So keep that in mind. This, you cannot, like other effects, take this and give it as a souvenir to your spectator. You will not be able to do that because of the method. Okay, so those are not able to be given out as souvenirs. You could maybe find ways, you know, to do something on the back, like a drawing or something, but even then, I would not give these out as souvenirs. So in terms of carrying capacity, you will need your stack of special billets. But if you really, really like this method, it's not that bad, you know, $15 per gig. You're getting paid much more for your gig than that. To do something as clean as this, you can justify the price. It's no problem. It just depends how much he's going to keep producing these, you know. If he stops producing these, well, you're out of luck. You won't be able to do the effect anymore. So I do hope he keeps on producing these because they are pretty cool and they are pretty fun to use, okay? But you're going to have to carry that. In terms of inspectability, I've already told you, these are not inspectable. So at the end of routine, even though the spectator hold this in their hands, you're going to take it and you're going to say, oh, so you've written Sarah. That's interesting. Do you mind if I keep this in my collection? At the start of his routine, he does say that I'm doing something here and I'm trying to collect different people's data. Do you want to participate? And then he justifies taking it back because he collects the data, which is a very good justification for this. But keep in mind, this is not inspectable, so you will have to take this back. And when they open their hand, you don't want them to handle the card too much. You're just going to take it back and say, perfect. The way that he does it, as I said, is immediately when he does the move, and then he has them to sign the back, he immediately takes it, you know, with his head turned around, puts it in the stack of cards, wraps it up, and puts it in this pocket, out of sight, out of mind, and that's how he does it. And I think that's the best way to do it, in my opinion. Now, in terms of angles, the angles for this are also somewhat tricky in certain instances because you will have, as most peaks, you will not really want anyone straightly behind you, okay? From the sides, it could work, but straightly behind you, rather not. So it's better to have people kind of in front of you when you are doing this effect. In terms of table, you do not need a table whatsoever. And in terms of reset, it is an instant reset because you're just using another card afterwards in order to do the routine, okay? Now moving on to where you perform. So where would you perform this? This is something that you could perform technically anywhere where you perform your billet work. But you do have to keep in mind certain considerations. You do have to keep in mind, first of all, lighting. You cannot perform this in a club. So in a club, this will not work. Or in a dark lit restaurant or in a speakeasy, this will not work. You need somewhat of a light source in front of you, okay? So in the general vicinity, it doesn't have to be like me, a ring light, of course. For example, if you're outside and it's sunny outside, you'll be good to go. But you will have to keep in mind if you are doing, for example, a stage show, you'd want, if you position your spectators, to have some kind of light in front of you to be able to make sure this works specifically well. Okay, so that is something to keep in mind. But in terms of performance, you can perform this anywhere. So now just to go back to what I said about difficulty, since I have talked a bit about performing environment and practicality, to perform this is easy, but you do have to make sure your spectator does not take the card or inspect it. So you have to put the pattern that you want in that. So, you know, the pattern that he gives of, oh, let me take it and place it in my collection, out of sight, out of mind, works well. But that has to be something that appeals to you. Then you're also going to have to make sure of your performing environment. No one behind you in order, you know, to obstruct some of the things that are going on or see the method. But also you have to make sure that you have a proper environment in order to get the peak done. Okay? So those are things that will sometimes not even impact the difficulty. It's going to remain super easy to do. But sometimes certain of those elements in audience management could make it a bit or a tad more difficult than some other methods. So now that we've covered everything, what are the positives and negatives of peek in plain sight? Well, one of the negatives of peek in plain sight is that the cards are not inspectable. So you cannot give this out as a souvenir. I'm personally someone that loves to give out the cards that people write on as souvenirs. If they throw it out, fine. If they keep it, it's a bonus for you. But I like to give my cards away, and these cannot be given away. I do like the idea of having a stack of cards where, you know, you're like, oh, I'm collecting the thoughts to see how people think, and I'm collecting that with me, and you carry that with you. That's fine. And I think it's a good justification in order to do the peak, but you will not be able to give this out at all to your spectators. Another thing is that if you perform this every single time you do the effect, you've essentially wasted a card. So you're going to waste a gimmick. So it's kind of a gimmick per effect. So for $15 Canadians, which is around 10 or 12 USD, you can do 50 performances with your cards. So when you buy this originally with the instructions for 32 USD, you can do 50 performances with what you get here. So that is, again, something for you to keep in mind if it's worth or not worth it. But you will need to buy refills with this eventually. I do know some people that, you know, on the Magic Cafe were talking, oh, these are similar to these cards or whatever. These ones work perfectly, and I do trust him when he said that he spent a lot of time making these and making sure he gets the right stock, the right everything, because they do work perfectly. So I know that you could maybe find cheaper alternatives, but I don't know if they're going to work as well as these, but that is up to you, okay? Now, let's go in terms of positives. So what are the positives of peek in plain sight? One, the instructional video is very good. The method is as clean as they say, right? There's no sleight of hand, nothing like that. And it is very direct. If you have the conditions to do this and you have the moment to do this and the opportunity to do this, this is incredibly clean because you're always with your back turned. You basically never handle the card. You always are at fingertips. All your moves are justified, and you never do the, okay, place it back, you do a move, or place it back, you do the thing where you put it in your pocket. It is very clean, right? It is very clean in its method and how it works, and it can be extremely fooling, and especially even for some magicians and mentalists, you can catch them off guard with this. You know, if you perform a few tricks with billets, and then you change your billets up, and you do this to them, this could really bring them off guard and catch them off guard when you are doing the effect, okay? It is the stock and the cards that you get are very well produced as well. I also forgot to say one more thing in practicality is that you will have to learn to read upside down for this. That's all I'm going to say, okay? So now that we've said all of that, what are the positives and what is my official opinion and my rating of the peek in plain sight? Would I recommend the peek in plain sight? My answer is if you're a mentalist and you want to try out a method such as this, give it a shot. I think it's worth a shot, okay? Will I replace my normal peaks, my normal methods, my normal uses of billets with this? No. Will I use this in certain instances? Probably yes. Will I use this as my go-to peak moving forward? No. But I do think that having this, playing around with it and testing it out is worth it. I think it's a method that deserves testing and that could possibly deserve your time and effort as well to test it out. And maybe you're going to like this, maybe not. You know, for me, I think it is cool. It is not something that I will be performing a lot, but I do think it is cool and that it is something that for some people is going to be worth it. Okay. So what do I give it out of 10? I am giving the peek in plain sight a 7 out of 10. I do think it has its worth. I do think it is well produced. I do think that it deserves to be experimented with, but for it to become your everyday peek, probably not. So that's all I have to say about the peek in plain sight. If you have any additional questions, leave them down below. If not, I'll see you all in my next review. Have a great one, and bye-bye.